Alright, what is up YouTube? I'm 40. We're going to be looking at the NLG top cut for their event. We're going to go through the top 8 and some other fun, fantastic things. So the first list I wanted to show off is actually the second place list from the event, playing our boy Cyber Buffalo. So if this face-up card leaves the field, you can discard one Cyberse monster, and if you do draw 2 cards, you can only use this effect of Cyber Buffalo once per turn. So the first thing you're going to say, I actually covered this in my discussion on Monday talking about this a little bit. I don't know if this is going to be the most correct path to go with this, but people are trying it. And because people are trying it, you know, it definitely leaves room to explore options and things like that. So this is Salamangreat testing out Cyber Buffalo along with our boy Update Jammer, just kind of getting more cheeky. Also, some of the builds from NLG this weekend were playing floodgates like Gozen and Rivalry, and I think the ARG and the PPG, like, we didn't see builds exploring this, so just kind of little things to point out. Also, Super Poly for the Mirror is pretty insane, actually. So we have triple copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Springs, triple copies of Effect Veiler, 2 copies of Flame Buffalo. We have 2 copies of Lady Debug, triple copies of Salamangreat Foxy, triple copies of Gazelle, 1 copy of Jaguar, triple copies of Spinny, we have triple copies of Called by the Grave, 1 copy of Fusion of Fire, triple copies of Salamangreat Circle, 1 Salamangreat Sanctuary, 1 Super Poly, triple Twin Twister, triple copies of Gozen Match, triple copies of Impermanence, 1 Rage, and 2 Roar. Down here in the extra deck, we have 1 Update Jammer, triple copies of Violonix, triple copies of Sunlight Wolf, 2 copies of Yugioh, 1 Phoenix, 1 Ablaze, 1 Borlo, 2 Mirage Stalio, and 1 Violet Chimera. Side deck, we have triple copies of Fantastic Boy, triple Gamma Seal, triple Ghost Reaper, triple copies of Mind Crush, and triple copies of Red Reboot, wrapping up this interesting list. So that's just the second place Salamangreat list. I just wanted to kind of point out a little bit more tech options between the Cyber Buffalo and the playing of the Ghost Reaper in the side. Now, the winning list from the event was actually this. And this is the list that was playing 2 copies of Psychic Wielder, 1 copy of Emergency Teleport, just kind of acting as general extenders, also rounding out the deck at 40 cards, and 10 hand traps built into it to kind of handle the situations that you want to see per se. So I honestly think that this is probably one of the more solid builds that I've gotten the chance to see. So we have triple copies of Ash Blossom, triple copies of Effect Veiler, 2 Ogres, triple copies of Lady Debug, triple copies of Wielder, 1 copy of Falco, 2 copies of Foxy, triple copies of Gazelle, 1 Jaguar, triple copies of Spinny, triple copies of Called by the Grave, 1 Emergency Teleport, 1 Fusion of Fire. Remember, this card is actually nuts because it's both sides of the field. We have triple copies of Salamangreat Circle, 1 Salamangreat Sanctuary, triple copies of Twin Twister, 2 copies of Infinite Impermanence, 1 Rage, and 2 copies of Roar. Down here in the extra deck, we have triple copies of Violonix, triple copies of Sunlight Wolf, 2 Yugioh, 1 Phoenix, 1 Borlode, 2 Mirage Stalio, 1 Baguski, 1 Violet Chimera, and 1 Dragon Draspalia. Side deck, we have 2 copies of Brinkatops, triple copies of Droll, triple copies of Fantastic Boy, triple Evenly, 1 Imperial Order, and triple Rivalry of Warlords, wrapping up this list as well. Like I said, nothing too special to point out here, other than this was the winning list from the event, and we have Floodgates once again presenting themselves down here in the side deck. I also think that the inclusion of Psychic Wielder and Emergency Teleport, both as extenders, are things a lot of people should give consideration to for the current format. If you are a Salamangreat player, just to kind of see what's going on and explore different, routes and things for the deck. Next list I wanted to cover was actually Subterror. Now, I've seen 0 actual, real Subterror kind of coming out of this weekend. You would think that Subterror would actually be getting the chance to do something literally at the top of their game, but I guess Salamangreat literally checks this deck on a whole nother level. Things like there can only be 1. I mean, yeah, they have Twin Twisters and it can blow them out, but if you do get this off early enough, you can probably slow them down. But once again, a deck like this is essentially a going first deck. If this deck does not get the chance to win that dice roll, it's going to struggle because, Guru and Fiendus can only do so much. Obviously, you have things like the hand traps built in and impermanences to kind of ease the situation for you. But you have to draw those cards. You know what I mean? Also, once again, we see cherries down here for that Yugioh. Does this deck actually recover if you actually cherries them? Like, that's kind of what I'm curious about. Is this actually... That's something for down below in the comment section, but is cherries as devastating to this deck as it's starting to look? Because, like, if I'm really starting to see cherries show up this fucking much for this deck, it is really kind of starting to raise some questions for this deck. So anyway, on to the deck. So we have triple copies of Ash Blossom, 2 copies of Effect Veiler, 2 copies of Ghost Bell in the Haunted Mansion, 1 copy of Umastrix, triple copies of Phoenix, triple copies of our boy Guru. Literally, Guru is the centerpiece of this deck. If we did not have this card, this deck would fail. We have 1 copy Nemesis Archer, triple copies of Duality, triple copies of Pot of Extravagance. We also have 2 copies of Terraforming, triple copies of The Hidden City, triple copies of Infinite Impermanence, 1 copy of Solemn Judgment, triple copies of Solemn Strike, 1 Warning, triple copies of Final Battle, and triple copies of There Can Only Be One. Like I said, this deck very much wants to win that die roll. If it doesn't win that dice roll, we're going to have a bad time. So we have 1 copy of Summon Sorceress, 1 copy of Double Helix, 1 Kagari, 1 Sunlight Wolf, 1 Ningrisu, 1 Mrs. Radiant, 1 Link Kribo, 2 Link Spider, 1 Unicorn, 1 Phoenix, 1 Mermaid, 1 Electromite, 1 Hextia, and 1 Dante. Wonder what happens when you play against Salamangreat, you side in the cherries, and you remove your Sunlight Wolf, and you're just like, well, fuck. Side deck, 2 Prankatops, triple Ghost Reaper, triple copies of this card. This is kind of just an auto win against certain decks. So this card can only be activated at the start of main phase 1. This card can also only be started at the main phase 1. Neither player can normal summon or special summon an effect monster until your next draw phase. This at least gets a turn back to you. Like, if nothing else, like, do what you need to do. We have 2 copies of Evenly, 2 copies of Ghost of Match, and triple copies of Heavy Storm Duster wrapping up this list. Like I said, I love going first decks, but yikes. Like, I feel like in any other position, though, if you don't go first, like, Subterror just kind of smashes through this, or Salamangreat just kind of smashes through this. And then the last list I wanted to talk about for this event was actually combination of Thunder Dragon and Dinosaur. I know a lot of people were kind of sad when this deck kind of faded out of existence during the previous format, because a lot of people were like, oh yeah, the Dinosaur mashup was really good with Brilliant Fusion and the broken generic things that you could do, but this build kind of brings that all back together and kind of makes it all fun. Like, I don't know how consistent this actually is on paper, but considering the other things that kind of top the event and things like that, just a lot of salad boys, like, I think that this is probably the most innovative thing next to Subterror. So, we have 2 copies of Aloof Lupine, we have 2 copies of Batteryman Solar, 1 copy of Blackluster Soldier, 2 copies of Chaos Dragon Levineer, 1 Giant Rex, 2 copies of Overtex Koltos, 2 copies of Soul Eating Oviraptor, triple copies of Thunder Dragon, triple copies of Dragon Dark, 2 copies of Dragon Hawk, triple copies of Dragon Hawk. We also have triple copies of the Egg. I know so many people have different opinions about the Egg. I think the Egg is fantastic for what it does in the pure version of the deck. If you're not playing pure, I understand why you hate the Egg, because it just doesn't do shit for you, but in this build, specifically, the Egg is still fine. I don't see a single danger card in here, do you guys? We have triple copies of Dragon Roar, and then 2 copies of Ultimate Conductor. Honestly, I think that playing Conductor does put a little bit more of an advantage engine that this deck had. I mean, obviously, Colossus and stuff is very good, but for the most part, like, I don't know. Flipping down your opponent's cards before they can start comboing is really good, I heard. We have triple copies of Lord Darkness, triple copies of Double Evolution Pill, 2 copies of Fossil Dig, 1 Gold Sark, 1 Monster Reborn, and 2 Thunder Dragon Fusion. Intriguing. I don't know when the last time I actually saw Double Fusion was. I think, oh god, what was it? Most builds were down to playing 1 as it was, and most builds were just cutting it and saying screw it. The extra deck, we have 1 Wee Witch's Apprentice, 1 Summon Sorceress, 1 Summoner, 1 Reproticus, 1 Link Kribo, 1 Landphonicus, 1 Unicorn, 1 Phoenix, 1 Gustav Max, triple Titan, and triple Thunder Dragon Colossus. Side deck, triple Denko Rekka, 2 copies of Prankatops, triple copies of the Giant Testicle, 1 Super Poly triple Twin Twister, and triple Evenly Matched, wrapping up this bad boy. Obviously, Thunder has its own problems in the format. We know this. Can you afford the danger cards? Yes or no? And why? But interesting things to come. So, guys, what do you think about NLG's Switch tournament results? Please leave a comment down below. I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts from the event. Everything looks pretty standard, honestly. And all right, guys, I'm out.
The ride never, well, truly ends. Thank you, patrons. Without you guys, I don't know what I'd be wearing in these videos. I might be a Truffle Shuffle incident all over again. Guys, please also check out Vanquil40 for some awesome Vanguard content. Some other interesting stuff you might find up here on the left or in the description as well. Thanks for watching.